All this weekend, we are taking a look back at a case in review. The charges against Bryan Kohberger in the murder of the 4 Idaho college students. Taking a listen to some of the most compelling conversations and discussions that we've had thus far. Let's listen to another one.
This is the examination of the hidden human condition.
You're listening to the Hidden Killers Podcast.
This is the Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Brueski.
We are joined by psychologist Dr. John Delatorre for this segment, examining some of the requests that have been made by the defense of Bryan Kohberger. One of those big defense requests is, we don't want cameras in the courtroom. I just want to talk about the request itself, and that as a bigger topic. Whether or not they decide on allowing cameras in the courtroom or not is not what I'm wanting to get at. I'm curious from a psychological standpoint. Cameras in a courtroom, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it a mix? Does it depend on what the case is?
No, it's always good. Because here's the real issue is that the legal system is still kind of nebulous as a concept. And a lot of people get their information from like Law and Order SVU and stuff like that. That's not entirely accurate.
Sure.
Cameras in the courtroom are 100% important. I don't know what they mean when they say that people are going to be analyzing his behavior. They're doing that already.
Exactly.
Right. So that there's not going to be any difference. And if the judge is concerned that it's going to unduly influence the jury, which is already a problem, that's probably going to lead to a mistrial. If the judge finds out that a jury member is watching the news, that juror is going to be gone.
Yeah.
So that's all. You're already protected in that area. And also you could just sequester them, right? So that you have control over what the jury is watching. People they're not going to stop, right? Just because you don't want cameras in the courtroom. I would say that having the cameras in the courtroom allows for complete transparency as to what is being presented and what's the actual evidence against Bryan Kohberger. It's not just some kind of scapegoat situation that this is the guy because we think he's weird, right? Cameras in the courtroom is 100% always good. And the idea that people are going to be interpreting his behaviors, I think is outlandish because we're already doing it. Having cameras in the courtroom or not having cameras in the courtroom isn't going to start or stop any of that behavior.
If there's going to be questioning about his behavior, which there's going to be inevitably, as there already has been, this argument that having a camera in the courtroom or not almost seems very 1995, as if that's the only source of information where people are getting informed on the Kohberger case.
Yeah, and it's, once again, if you think it's about protecting the jury, well, if the argument is being made that it's about protecting the jury, there's already things in place that will protect the jury and ensuring that they're going to be making a decision and rendering a verdict based only on the evidence being presented. But these things are important for the community to watch so that we have a clear understanding of fairness in our judicial system, which right now, a lot of people don't think that we do.
Sure. And this is a way for people to see it in a very transparent manner, in the very raw form of what it actually is. We've learned a lot about some of the things that he claims to have skills in from an old job application, one of which appears to be lying because the resume was fact-checked and it didn't check out. The skills, though, are creepy. I mean, because considering the charges and what we know, goes on to talk about his amazing knife skills when it comes to filleting fish, his upper body strength from boxing all the time, and being a skilled debate speaker. Well, we know the boxing is legit. The knife skills don't necessarily check out to be from the fish fillet company. And the speaker also kind of questionable. Do any of these things play into the breadcrumbs that we know about him and what we've speculated on, or just the facts about what type of human being this is that we're also focused on in this case?
I think there's a concept in which in psychology where we talk about the misestimation of covariance, where we talk about because someone has these like other skills that automatically means, X, Y, and Z about the person, right? We're overestimating someone saying that they can do all of these things. The reality is that all of our resumes are embellished at some point, particularly early on in our lives. I think for me, it's more telling about what it says about him than what it says about what he's capable of doing. All of these things are very masculine in nature. They're all very sort of this idea that I'm better than someone else, right? The knife skills, right? The debate skills, right? The upper body strength. I'm bigger, I'm stronger, I'm smarter, right? These are all very masculine kinds of things. He's not talking about I'm an open communicator or something like that. So it tells me more about how he viewed what was important about his presentation at the time than whether or not that any of that stuff. Because number one, like you said, most of it is probably just a huge embellishment, right? As to almost be a lie. And it's not necessarily that because those things, because he believed he has those things, that all of a sudden, he was going to become a killer.
Sure, without a doubt. It paints a very accurate picture of how he wanted to be perceived at the time of writing that letter to the outside world or to whoever he was giving that resume to. He went through some very significant physical changes during his high school years, losing about 100 pounds. And his friends also pointing out that, he kind of seemed like a different human being after he lost those 100 pounds, actually lost quite a few friends as well. How does this sort of physical transformation potentially impact a person's psychological state after losing it? We all think, oh, great, you lost weight. That's wonderful. That's quite a bit to lose. That takes some very harsh dedication to take that on and to succeed. Does this give us any sort of insight into his abilities of how he handles the world around him by having made such a dramatic shift in who he was?
I think it says more. I think it will say more once we know the motivation. What was the impetus for losing that weight? Right? Is it because he viewed, media and it suggested what a man was supposed to be like? Like, did he watch Fight Club, 37 times in a row, and then all of a sudden that's how he decided that, I'm going to be like Tyler Durden, right? We don't really, we have to know what the motivation behind it is, because on its surface, like you said, if anybody said, hey, I lost 100 pounds, all of us are going to be congratulating that individual for taking their health into their own hands and doing what they need to do in order to be disciplined, in order to be healthy, in order to be motivated. All of us would be applauding that individual. But it's once again, because of what we think Kohberger has done, that we're looking back on some of these things and saying, oh, well, that's clearly evidence that this guy is, whatever it is that he is, because it's certainly possible that, yes, he did watch some, hyper masculine piece of media and decided, a man is this and I'm going to be this and every woman is going to be subservient to me. That's 100% possible. It's also possible that, he looked at his life. He probably couldn't climb upstairs without getting winded, sweating all the time, and just decided that, I need to make a change. And in that change, right, which again requires discipline and a commitment, in that scenario, it could have been corrupted so that it started off as being appropriate, but then later became something else, right? Something that would lead to someone being disciplined and committed into engaging in act. So it's really about the motivation and impetus that's going to tell us more, rather than just the behavior itself suggesting something.
This is the Hidden Killers podcast with Tony Brueski.
You want to weigh in on anything we're talking about? 888-5-KILLER, 888-554-5537 to do just that. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Dr. John Delatorre, thank you so much for joining us. Always appreciate your insight. My name's Tony Brueski. You can follow me on Twitter at TonyBPod. Stay with us.